Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Georgiemon and I'm your friendly neighborhood anime and manga fan. I love all things anime and all things manga, and I'm here today to talk about my top 10 mangas of 2022. So this list is going to consist about all the mangas I've read in 2022 that either were being published or ended in 2022. So just as a quick disclaimer, this list is 100% subjective, and these are my top 10 favorite mangas. So, if your manga didn't make it in my list, don't take it personal. Either A, I didn't read it, or B, I just didn't like it as much as you did. So, but that's what makes it great, because we all have different opinions. So I'm just going to give you guys my top 10, or my personal opinion of what were my favorite mangas of 2022. Now, let's start with number 10. Now, number 10, very surprising, because I actually, not only A, did I read this manga, but I liked it as much as I did, even though it's a spin-off of another manga that you'll see in this list, which is we want to talk about Kaguya. Now, this manga is a spin-off of Love is War, and this manga is great. It's very cute and very short, because it's a spin-off. You only get a couple pages. It's not even a full-length kind of manga. So each chapter is very short and very digestible, and it's very quirky, and the humor is great. And it captures the magic of Love is War. And Erika and Karen, best girls, love them, and they're just your typical trash shippers, and that makes them great. And I love we want to talk about Kaguya. So my number 10 will start with we want to talk about Kaguya. It was just amazing, and I enjoyed every single moment that I read, because it also concluded this year. So I'll be sad not seeing my girl Karen and Erika, but it was awesome while it lasted. Now, for my number 9 pick, I ended up going with a shonen series that I know all of you guys have heard about and probably seen. Number 9 is My Hero. I just think this year My Hero had an amazing year when it came to the manga. We had a lot of cool moments, like the Stars and Stripes versus Shigaraki. We had a lot of great moments with Endeavor, and I just think My Hero has picked up from at one point it was a very low point, which was the Class A versus Class B, that whole training arc that was bad. And we also had the Gentle Criminal a couple years ago. So I just think that these following, ever since the war, pretty much My Hero has been in an upwards trajectory once again. And I think this year, while it was rushed, I won't deny that, I do think that My Hero was great, and it just kept up with consistently being good, except for a few things that I did not like, especially some Bakugo decisions that the manga ended up going with, and that I strongly disagree with. But overall, I think My Hero deserved a spot in my top 10, and it's my number 9. Now, my number 8 pick as my favorite manga of 2022 would have to be My Dress Up Darling. Now, before I go even further, I would say that My Dress Up Darling almost made it to my number 7. But it was very close, and I feel comfortably putting it in number 8. I just love My Dress Up Darling. I love the series. I think Marin is awesome. I love Marin. She's best girl. I think Gojo's a Chad. I think the supporting characters have been awesome. Juju and pretty much Akira. I think all of them have been amazingly written, and the humor is great. And I like how My Dress Up Darling consistently, subverts our expectations of what a romance sitcom / slice of life kind of manga should be. And it's consistently flipping the script, and being innovative in the way that it like pretty much the way that it constantly surprises us with the humor, or with the way that the story goes. But overall, I would say that My Dress Up Darling this year had a very strong year when it came to the sleepover with Gojo and Marin. That was amazing. The corpse party, that was great. We got the resolution of it in the last chapter, and I just think overall we got a very solid year when it came to My Dress Up Darling. Marin wanting to say that she wants to confess to Gojo. All these big moments happened this year, and for that, I think My Dress Up Darling definitely deserved to be as my number 8 favorite manga of 2022. Now, following that, my number 7 favorite manga of 2022, it like I said, it was very close between My Dress Up Darling and this. And my number 7 I ended up settling with One Piece. Now, One Piece, for me personally, it was a mixed bag of a year. There was some really, really high moments in One Piece, but there was also some very low moments. And while I personally didn't like the way Wano ended, I do think that all the content we'd had in Egghead Island with pretty much the Vegapunks and all the lore that we've been learning when it came to Kuma and just Devil Fruits in general, as well as the Blackbeard interaction with Law and all that, I think that has been incredible. But in the opposite side of the perspective, I would say that a lot of the things that happened this year were very, very bad. Yamato not joining the crew, the way Wano ended with Luffy just punching Kaido with a big fist, just like Dressrosa when he defeated Doflamingo. Pretty much the way that like Saul is back, he never died. I just think a lot of the decisions that were made were very bad. Like they were really, really bad, and I just think that overall, I think the positives outweigh the negatives. So even though I personally loved every single chapter of My Dress Up Darling, and I think it was incredible throughout the whole year, I do think that the highs of One Piece make up for the lows that we had for the most part. So for that, I think it deserved to be my number 7 of my favorite mangas of this year. Now, as for my number 6 pick, I know it might be very surprising to a lot of you guys, especially since I upload content regarding this manga every time they uploaded a chapter, but my number 6 favorite manga of 2022 would be Hunter x Hunter. Now, I know how you guys are looking at me. You guys are like, what? You guys, I know you might be shocked with that answer, but I absolutely loved this year when it came to Hunter x Hunter. I think the 10 chapters we got were fantastic for the most part, and that's the key word. For the most part, they were great, and I loved them pretty much in their own individual way. However, I will not just blindly say that I loved every single chapter, because even though I loved the Phantom Troop backstory with Chrollo and all that, well, I think that was amazing and some of the best writing Togashi has done. I also think that, there was some, stuff that went down that wasn't that great. Pretty much that one chapter with Serenich and his goons, I thought that was a very bad chapter, and I think it killed a lot of the momentum that was built up in the prior chapters. However, Togashi did make it up by pretty much giving us the Chrollo backstory. I also do think that a lot of the stuff that we did see, I don't know if it'll go anywhere. A lot of the Morena's henchmen that we saw, I think that just taking up space. Now, I do appreciate all the Phantom Troop things that we saw, as well as Hisoka and Heinreit. I think Heinreit, the Phantom Troop, and Hisoka have been the best elements of Hunter x Hunter that we've seen in the chapters. But overall, I just think that in an enjoyment level with the other 5, I just enjoyed way more, and I think they were just consistently better. So with that being said, Hunter x Hunter is my number 6 favorite manga of 2022. Now, moving along, my number 5, now we're making it to the top 5. My number 5 favorite manga of 2022 would be Berserk. Now, Berserk, just as a disclaimer, is my favorite manga of all time. I love the series, and I'm just grateful that it came back this year. And I would say that the content we got this year was incredible. I think Studio Gaga and Orange, I think they've been doing just phenomenal job. Pretty much continuing the legacy of Miura. And I think the source material has been incredible. I think Guts, everything that we've seen with him, and Griffith, I think that's been amazing. So the only thing I would say is that we only got 7 chapters, while the other series that are in front of this either got more pages or more chapters. Not to mention that I just personally believe that I enjoyed the other 4 series more than I did Berserk this year. Now, that's not a diss on Berserk. I love Berserk, and I thought the chapters were amazing. I just happen to like the other chapters and the other content of the other mangas a little bit more. And that's fine, it's like I said, Berserk's my favorite manga of all time. I just think that these other 4 mangas had a better year than Berserk this year. And that's as simple as it gets. Now, continuing on, my number 4 favorite manga of this year might be a lot of people surprised when knowing that I put this over Berserk, but hey, sorry, listen, I gotta preach the truth. My number 4 favorite manga of this year is Love is War. Now, I got into Love is War this year, actually, when it came to the manga. I have watched the shows, and I always love the shows. The anime is one of my favorite animes of all time, but it was pretty much after season 3 that I was like, I gotta jump into the manga. So I read all the manga, and I ended up catching up pretty much around when there was like 15 chapters left. And from there on, I read it weekly, and I loved it. I loved pretty much all of Love is War. I think it's incredible, and I love the ending. I love the ending. I love how all the characters were. They had their swan song. Like they all had their all individual chapters, pretty much wrapping up their story arcs. And I just think that Love is War was incredible. I love like the slice of life, romance, sitcom elements of it, and I think it was just brilliantly written, and I had such joy. And it's sad knowing that it's the end. Like after such a long journey, it's finally over, but it ended in an incredible way, and I'm grateful that I read it because it was amazing. So yeah, Love is War, number 4 favorite manga of this year. All right, now we're making it to the top 3. Now, my number 3, once again, might be a shocker to you guys, especially since if you've seen my channel, you know the content I upload. But my number 3 favorite manga of this year will definitely be Chainsaw Man. Now, Chainsaw Man, I think part 2 has been incredible. I've been a Fujimoto fan ever since I read Chainsaw Man, and I just think that Chainsaw Man this year was incredible. I think the return of Chainsaw Man was really, I personally would say that part 2 Chainsaw Man, the start of it has been miles ahead of the beginning of Chainsaw Man part 1. And Asa and Yoru, and I think pretty much everything Fujimoto has built up in part 2 has been exceptional. I just think that this series is pretty much one of those series that you have to read. I think it personally is the best title that Jump is publishing at the moment. And yeah, Fujimoto's a genius. So I think everything that I saw this year when it came to Chainsaw Man Part 2, pretty much Asa and Yuko and Denji coming back and Yoshida and all the stuff that we saw in Part 2 just has been amazing. It gives me a lot of like JoJo kind of vibes when it comes to around Part 3, where Denji's kind of like the side character now and there's a new MC. And I just enjoy Chainsaw Man Part 2, and I think Fujimoto has been knocking it out of the park. So I would say Chainsaw Man is my number 3 favorite manga of this year. Now, as for my number 2, this, I just think it was exceptional. And any other year, if my number 1 hadn't came out this year, I think number 2 would have been my number 1 easily. However, because of my number 1, that you'll see, my number 2 had to be One Punch Man. Now, One Punch Man this year was incredible. I think it was amazing. I think everything that was in the manga was just exceptional. With the fight scenes were awesome. The Garu versus Saitama fight would definitely have to be one of the best fights I ever read in a manga. Not to mention that when it does get animated, I'm sure it's gonna be in contention for one of the greatest fights in all of anime. Because if they adapt it properly, if MAPPA adapts the fight properly, I do truly believe that this has the potential of being one of the greatest fights ever put in animated form. And I just think that pretty much wrapping up the Garu arc, I think that one pretty much perfected his storytelling, and Urata, pretty much the illustrator, I think they both just nailed it, and they give us something special with pretty much this One Punch Man. When we got introduced to Blast, we got all these things that we saw, and I think that just it was just awesome. Like, I don't know how to describe it. I just think everything that One Punch Man did this year was 11 out of 10. I consistently was like mind blown by every chapter. That whole Genos dying, Saitama learning how to time travel with that technique, Garu becoming God at one point, having the God energy, matching Saitama raising his bar, pretty much increasing his potential. Like, all these elements were just insane, and I thought this year was incredible. One Punch Man was phenomenal this year, and One Punch Man would have definitely gotten my number 1 spot if my number 1 manga of the year wouldn't have came out this year. Which, now that we get to the number 1, this is a manga that I wouldn't just say it's my favorite manga of this year. I would also say that it might go down as one of my top 5 mangas of all time. Now, this manga, it's a little manga written by an author that I mentioned earlier. That's Satsuki Fujimoto, and that would be, for my number 1 pick of my favorite manga of 2022, it would definitely have to be Goodbye Eri. Now, Goodbye Eri was to me a masterpiece. I think this manga was just incredible. I could not put this manga down. I read it all in one go. I was glued to it. I just couldn't stop reading it. I also would say that this is, for me personally, Fujimoto's like best project he's ever done. I would say this is like his Pulp Fiction. If it comes to like Tarantino, if you had to describe a Tarantino film, this would be like his masterpiece, like his baby, like the one that universally you can look at and be like, yeah, I think that's Fujimoto's best work when it comes to his writing, his paneling, and his story and the characters. The way that he writes a scene, it's incredible. Even though Fujimoto is only 30 years old, I already consider him in the conversation for GOATs when it comes to a storytelling point of view, because I think Fujimoto is the current GOAT when it comes to the new gen of writers, especially in Shonen Jump. I think he is the GOAT currently, since he is to me the best writer at Jump at the moment. And Goodbye Eri was just incredible. I thought it was exceptional, and it was a love letter to cinema and film. And I love movies, and seeing just pretty much, we know that Fujimoto loves movies, and why not? But if you read Goodbye Eri, you'll really appreciate just how much he cares and loves movies. And with that being said, I just think that Goodbye Eri was an incredible story, and it definitely deserved to have my #1 spot of my favorite manga of 2022. But with that being said, what did you guys think about my top 10? Did you guys thought it was whack? Did you guys like it? Did you guys agree with my list? Did you guys disagree? Whatever you guys thought, let me know in the comment section down below. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching and sticking all the way to the end of the video. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more anime and manga content in the near future. But yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.